Hello everyone, my name is Mr. Rader, and in this video we'll take a look at mini unit A, measuring democracy, and it's really intended to help students with day 4 and day 5 as they look at completing step 2 and step 3 of the critical reading for argument tool, looking at the ways in which inequality can influence democracy. And in the fourth day, students will take a look at step 2 of the critical reading for argument tool. So you may want to take a moment to review and reacquaint yourself with your responses from day 3, which was looking at step 1, which is available in another video in this series. And then the independent work for this lesson would be to complete step 2, which we'll review momentarily. So this is the document that you'll want to have out. It's the critical reading for argument tool. We'll be looking at the article, How Inequality Undermines Democracy, by E. International Relations, authored by Oren M. Levin-Waldman. And for step 2, what we really want to consider is what can we do to maximize our effectiveness in taking notes while reading. So this 2-column organizer can be very useful for helping you to keep track of what you're reading along with what you're thinking. So the prompts can be very useful for you to make sense of the text that you're reading and to take some very specific notes. So some of the things you can keep track of is, does the reading present an explicit argument or a thesis? So if so, what is it? So you can look for words like argue, demonstrate, show, contend, which could show that an argument is being introduced. And in the introduction, the author does this by saying, quote, "In this essay, I argue that to the extent that inequality effectively speaks to a shrinking middle class, it represents a threat to democracy." You can also look at the author's objective. Are they arguing a point, examining multiple perspectives, etc.? And then thinking about the evidence and claims that the author is using to qualify and modify or extend their argument. And I included some examples, clearly not all inclusive, but can give us a starting point to help us to think through what we could note while we're reading. And then in terms of the one in my thinking column, you might want to look at these 4 prompts and consider how it might connect to your gut feeling and reaction as you're reading, how your feelings may be shifting or changing as you read, and considering how their expertise lends credibility to the claims being made, and if you found these claims to be convincing. So for example, I made a notation that the writer seems to be very well informed about the topic since they cite multiple sources in each paragraph. So for example, when we scroll through this, we can see several citations being employed. So it really starts in this section here. And we can see a citation, Bellman and Wolfson, 2014, Hacker and Pearson, 2010, Piketty, 2014, according to data from the Current Population Survey, CPS. We can see it throughout the article, Hacker and Pearson, 2010. So those would be things that I would look for because they show evidence of research that's being included in the writer's work. And then in the second bullet point, I just wrote like my feelings did or did not really change because, and then you could incorporate a reason that would help make sense for you. And then in day 5, or Inequality Measuring Democracy, part 3, you'll look at completing step 3 and really concluding and considering whether or not you believe inequality should be included as one of our indicators for democracy, and really try to think why it should or why it should not be included. So in step 3, putting it all together, I like to use the turn that question around prompt. So you can use these 3 prompts to write out your thoughts on the text as a whole. And it may be useful to refer back to the section headings to really identify the key parts of the text that are going to really help you summarize the entirety of it. So for example, I see a section here on the threat democracy, another section heading on rising inequality, again, kind of breaking down the writer's argument, the introduction piece, and then a third component, impact of inequality and civic participation. So making the direct connection between economic inequality and that idea or that characteristic of democracy related to civics and civic participation. So in the criteria, you want to identify whether or not you found it to be not compelling at all, compelling, or very compelling, and then offer a reason or a rationale for that. And at the end, in a couple of sentences, you'll want to give an overall holistic evaluation of this argument and essentially putting forth your opinion about the information that's being presented to you. And in this case, really looking at the role of inequality and the ways in which it influences our ability as individuals to participate in the political process. All right, so that'll do it for today's video. Hope everybody has a great day, and I look forward to the next installment in this series.